Today I wanted to bring you a catch-up episode of Car Cobbler, particularly that's CherryRed 49 Chev 06 Cadillac merge project. And if you haven't been following this project, let me just say that it's 6 months this week since I started, and I cut the top off the Cadillac, the 06 Cadillac CTS, kept all the chassis and everything in place, extended the wheelbase 1 inch, so shortened or lengthened the drive shaft and the brake cable, and I think that's about it. And I did all that by bracing the underneath. I've got some angle iron bolted along the underneath of the sort of subframes of the Cadillac, and then cut the floor out of the 49 Chev. Now, you don't do this to an old Chevy unless the old Chevy is what would you say, crusher fodder, good for nothing else. If you've got a nice car, a car that has, any kind of structural strength to it at all, and or it's repairable without too much trouble, then this is not the approach to take. But this car was good for nothing but the crusher. And so the idea was that I could replace I don't know what percentage, probably about 20% of the body steel with new steel, with making new panels with my bead roller and my English wheel, and then weld those into place, because we're not going to come up with anything like an original car. In fact, it's an opportunity usually to customize it a bit and to be able to smooth it out a bit. So all of the bottom chrome, none of that was with the car, right? There was well, on these cars, of course, it was stainless steel, but there's none of that came with the car. One band across the bottom of the windshield, across this door, this quarter panel's missing, and it went down that side, and I'll try to replace that because it wasn't too banged up. But anything from there down, not only was the car rusted out, but any of the trim was ruined, right? So along the bottom, there was a stainless steel trim that went all the way along the rocker panel at the bottom. And the rocker panel was specially shaped to take that, and that kind of covered that shape, right? Well, this one here, I'll be able to just smooth the rocker panel right down there. It'll just have a nice smooth line to it. But anyway, 6 months later, and through all the challenges that we've been through, a tremendous amount of measuring and engineering, guessing, sleeping and waking up in the middle of the night, I got an idea. Write it down in my iPad, whatever, Actually, you don't usually forget those. And then coming out here and executing them. So, but to be honest with you, 6 months would be 120 days or whatever. And I probably actually only put in about 60 days. So there's a lot of time, when you don't get out to your garage, right? You're working, you're going someplace else, you're traveling, you've got company or whatever it may be. So I would say, in that 6 months, it's probably only half of the time that I actually worked on the car. And that's a good way to do it too, because then you don't get too tired of it, because it's pretty overwhelming. Now, of course, the bottom of this 49 Chev Fleetline has been totally welded new panels in all the way across the tail end, the back, cross member and all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of cutting and welding on the Cadillac. And the interesting thing about this project is that the Cadillac and this Chev, they had a certain wheelbase and a certain track width, right? And that matched this car, well, like I say, within an inch. Cadillac was an inch shorter. The width is perfect. The height is really perfect. And the alignment is perfect. So the firewall on the 49 Chev lines up perfectly with the firewall on the Cadillac when you cut everything off and throw everything away and put the two pieces together. And then the back lines up perfectly. I mean, it's really snug. The Cadillac, rear end of the Cadillac, the tub for the spare wheel and so on, and then this rear part of the frame and the exhaust and hangers and stuff that are there are just tight against the back of this car. And at the front, the grille is so tight against the radiator. We're talking like probably a 1/16 of an inch tolerance. If I'd have been out a 1/16 of an inch, the project wouldn't have worked. So that was really a lot of measuring, a lot of fiddling around to try and get it. And the thing is, you're working on it for the first 4 months and you don't know if it's going to work or not, because you know, you haven't got all the way around the car front to back, and it's all got to work. And then you got to line things up, like the steering column has to be lined up with where the old Chev steering column was. And a lot of times there's no reference marks for that. So there's a lot of measuring, and you just take it from, you know, I took it from the hump on the dash, right, and figured that hump where the gauges went was probably center line with the steering wheel. So that's what I lined it up with, and it worked out perfectly with the Cadillac again. So this really is a viable project if you have a Chev that's not worth repairing, you have a Cadillac that's in decent enough shape, you know, that you want to use all of the underneath. Now, the interesting thing and the good thing is that for an 06 Cadillac, you can get all the parts, and there's some stuff I'll replace, you know, to bring it up to like new. Mind you, the thing drives beautifully. We drove it for a couple of years to make sure that we liked the ride. And then that dull thud is all of the sound deadening material that I put inside this 49 Chev. And like in behind the fenders and all that kind of stuff, I mean, days of really, yeah, it was a lot of challenge to get it in there and get it all filled up. But you don't want any gaps, because any vibration causes noise. But I guarantee that this car, when I'm done, is going to be much, much quieter than the Cadillac was in its natural state. And I love quiet. So that's going to be kind of one of the benefits. Now, the other thing is the Cadillac, the chassis is all there. And again, I've beefed some of it up and, you know, done the cutting and the reinforcing where it's needed to be, because it was unibody construction, right? It has no actual frame. It's got some subframes under it. Whereas the Chevy was a frame, you know, a body mounted on top of a frame. And so it's two different designs altogether. So it's got to be welded now together so that the body of the Chev becomes the strength of the Cadillac chassis. And that's not going to be hard to do. It's just, you know, you just replacing the 49 Chev or the 06 Cadillac body with the 49 Chev body. So that's going to work good. But the process was basically this. You find these two cars which where the specs match, and the weight of the cars, I think they're within like 100 pounds of each other, the curb weight. So you find two cars with the same sort of specs and then merge them together, you get the best of both worlds. And then to do that entails 1,000 little jobs, mini projects, which I've thoroughly enjoyed, you know, like lengthening the drive shaft and building the windshield wipers, using the Cadillac motor and the Chev design, the heaters and defrosters and all that kind of stuff, the air conditioning. And that's really what the 6 months entailed, was first of all, getting it all measured up and getting it to match up. And then the last couple of months has been doing all these little jobs that are easy to do when the body is off the car. And this is a great advantage of doing things like this. If I had put the body on the car and then done all of the sound deadening, oh man, I would have cramps because of the contortions you'd have to make to lay down in there, and and there's enough of that already, and welding from underneath and that kind of thing. But to do as much of the work as you can, get this body as complete as possible, and get the Cadillac chassis as complete as possible, finished as possible, so that now when I put the two of them together, it'll be the least amount of work as possible. Paint body is going to be huge, a lot of straightening to do. I mean, when you weld all those panels all the way around the car, like I'm talking all the way around the car at the bottom, has all been new steel, and inside the fender wells and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff there that's going to need to be a little bit of filler, and then when you look at the amount of dings in a car like this, with kids crawling on the roof and bong bong in it and that kind of stuff, and this body, there's no reason that it shouldn't come out absolutely just beautiful. The lines on it are nice, such a classy looking car, and then on top of the Cadillac, and then it'll drive so classy. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Now, where we are at this point is putting this body onto that chassis. And I mean, it's been on and off probably 20 times to line things up and get things in order. So now this time when I put it on, there's a whole bunch of places that are already aligned and already fit that I just start welding it into place. And then filling all of the holes in the fender wells and the trunk pieces that are missing and along the side, the rocker panels. Filling all that up, filling up around the firewall and all that kind of stuff. And then it'll become one piece. Well, that's a big advantage because now I've got way more room in my garage for one thing. And then the concern too is that, in a month or so, I got to go back to work. I mean, I want to get back overseas. And so to have it all in one piece, and just park it at the side. Now, the best case scenario would be that I get the bodywork done, get the car welded together, get the bodywork done and get it painted. And then next year, whenever I get a chance, put in the glass and the bumpers and the chrome parts like the grill and all that kind of stuff, the wiper arms and blades, and just a ton of that kind of stuff in the interior. One of the reasons for that is because of the COVID lockdown thing now. I can't go down to the States. So to order the parts from the States it's clumsy and it's expensive. When you can cross the border freely, I just ordered the parts into Sweetgrass, Montana, and then you drive down and you pick it all up and you bring it across the border yourself. And all you have to pay is the GST because there's no duty on car parts. Whereas if they come across the border themselves, a broker will get a hold of it and he'll charge you like 20 different kinds of duty and fees and all that kind of stuff, which you have no control over, which is, it's just a ripoff. It's just a scam. So that's the deal. So I'll try to do all the work now. And then next year, when I get a chance, order all of the pieces that I need to finish it that have to come from the States. I'm buying the entire set of glass for about $800, I think, $860 or something like that US. Well, it's worth it to have all new glass, and you have it all tinted the same and it looks really beautiful. Actually, the rubber gaskets for the glass and the channel runners and all those kind of things cost just about as much as the glass, which is interesting. But when you get down to buying things piece by piece, it's expensive. And I'll buy the headliner, do the rest of the upholstery myself, because the seats are from the Cadillac, they just bolt right back in. So it's just the door panels that I need to worry about. We've got the carpets and everything from the Cadillac, so most of that will work. So yeah, just the sides of the car, a little bit at the front, So that's the process. And I wanted to bring you up to date on that because, if you haven't been following this project, that's a good description and explanation of what, why, when, where. Because I get a lot of questions about that. Why did you cut that Chevy up? Well, because all you have to do is lift the body and the rest of it, so the rest of you just fall on the ground anyway. That's why. And why not just use the Cadillac? It was running fine. You've been driving it for a couple of years. It was a very pretty car, actually. Simply because it's not a 49 Chev Fleetline. Yeah, that's about it. And so sometimes we tie into some very difficult, very challenging projects simply because we want to come out the other side with something unique. And the neat thing about it is wherever I go, everybody talks to you, which is pretty cool. They let their guard down, they see your car. It's kind of like having kids, you got little kids, people just let their guard down and they figure if you got little kids, you're probably okay. If you drive an old car, you're probably okay. And one more thing. Actually, before that, how do you like the stance of the car? I kind of liking it, Now, I've got some old measurements that I took of the Cadillac before I took it apart. And I'm going to go compare those, but I think I'm really close. It's sitting down really nice. There's no rake, front ways or backwards. It's like, level all the way, which I kind of like. Because I want it to look natural, And there's no rocker panels on there, yeah, so that'll make a difference with the line across the bottom. It'll look a little cleaner. But one more thing, you know, that I've talked to you about this a little bit before, and that is that when we come up against a problem and we find a solution, it's not only a solution for the one-off problem, but it becomes a solution for the future, especially if you discover something new or come up with a new way of doing things. And that's one of the issues with doing this car like this. Now, the traditional way, and you could do it, even though this was a very rusty car, because you can actually buy a brand new floor, you can buy, you know, new posts, new quarter panels, new interior fender wells, you can buy all of that stuff, new tail piece. I mean, it would cost you, I don't know, $2,000-3,000, I suppose. But then you just weld it all in, and then you have to do a frame off, fix your frame, put in a rear end, maybe 4-link or whatever, some suspension in the front, maybe a Mustang 2 independent suspension or something like that, or buy one from some hot rod company. And then you got to get an engine, maybe a crate engine from GM or something. That's going to be, I don't know, $8,000 or $10,000, and all the stuff that you have to have with it to make the thing work. And then, you know, a transmission, another couple $1,000s. I mean, it goes on. And then all of the little things that I don't have to buy, like a radiator and electric fans and yeah, all of the other stuff, gas tank, you know, sending units, gauges, all of that stuff. I mean, man, that stuff adds up. In fact, I watched a guy build a car. It was in Australia, and he spent $100,000 or 100,000 Australian dollars, it's the same as Canadian, on this little old Ford car. And it was just for the sake of, you know, the nostalgia or whatever, because it was the car that his dad owned when he was a kid, and his dad rolled the car, and it had been sitting there in the backyard. And so, you know, spent $100,000 on this car. Well, you know, you wouldn't have to spend quite that much. I would say 40, 50, something like that, to do that kind of a restoration on this car. Well, I'm going to come probably under $10,000 or close to it, 12,000, maybe something like that by the time I'm done. And that's over 2 years, right? So I don't actually have to borrow money or you know, I get just a little bit each month. But anyway, my point being that you come up with a solution that somebody else can use. And you think of advancements in technology, medicine, whatever it may be. It's all been done by guys who are unselfish enough to try something new, not only for their own benefit, but to share it with others. And that's why I do the YouTube channel. Is it? I don't know. I'm not really sure why I do it. You know that making these videos probably takes about 16 hours per one 15, 20-minute episode. It's a lot of work, plus all the interruption. You can stop and talk to the camera while you're supposed to be working on your car. But you know, I just love doing it because, well, I'm excited about the way I'm doing this, and I think it's pretty clever, you know, and I want to share it with people. So think of your solutions or the challenges that you face, the things that you need to fix even, and that if you come up with maybe even a new way of doing it, then you've done something that actually benefits a lot of people for years to come. And there's a lot of ideas, you know, that we have. It's hard work to try them, and it's risky. But when you do it, I mean, you think of it this, probably 90% of all inventions and everything like that have not come from, oh, I want to invent something. No, they've come from, here's a problem, how can I fix it? Here's a situation, how can I make it better? And when we do that, we come up with solutions that help other people. So I want to encourage you to do that. Little things, big things, whatever it may be. Come up with solutions to help other people, and then figure out how you're going to share those solutions. Yeah, you should make a YouTube channel. It's lots of fun. One of my biggest challenges is the solution that I need to come up with all the time is how to up the ante, how to up the quality and the engagement level on these videos. I see the last one that I did, well, a couple episodes ago, it had an average viewing length of 10 some minutes. So that was that will be on the average. People will watch it 2/3 of it or 3/4 of it. Now, most of it, that's just because there's a lot of people that just watch it for a couple minutes, but most people do watch it all the way through. And, but anyway, yeah, do something like that, man. It's just, or share your stuff with it. I love watching guys doing projects, sharing them on Facebook or whatever. I just really like it. Gardening, furniture. I got a friend and his wife rebuild furniture and share it on there. And I love seeing that, because I'm thinking, man, I wish I had the time to do that. I do have some old furniture kicking around here. But then if I was going to do that, I would be calling him and asking him how to do that. Actually, what was really sweet is he dropped by here last week with his son to see the actual garage and the car. And so I appreciate that. I really appreciate the connections and the comments. So I want you to, subscribe. I think I've got almost 100 subscribers now. I don't think anybody thinks that they're going to make money off this video, so they just kind of pass it by. And like the video and share it with people that you think might get some encouragement out of it, right? And keep it up with finding solutions to the problems that you can share with other people, because then they actually become like inventions or major breakthroughs. So have a good week.